online. It's perfect, right? It's just like amazing.
It's good. It's good. I'm used to it, so it's not so bad.
Ah, so you used to it. You did a lot before?
Yeah, when I first started teaching, I lived in Malaga, so I taught pretty much all online, maybe 80% online,
Uh-huh.
as I was growing my client base, and then I moved to Barcelona and got pretty much all in person. So when quarantine started, I was like, this is easy.
Nothing changed, you know. I experienced it already, like because I have a talk before with a girl, and for her it was like absolutely new experience, you know, doing online. For me, it was like 50-50 because I did online and face to face, so it was kind of okay. It's okay, but you,
Okay.
yeah. But you personally, you prefer online or face to face?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because you have this and this, so you can compare.
Yeah. I think for managing your time, definitely online is better.
Mhm.
You can maximize your time, as in like the amount of time you can teach. Because I mean, realistically speaking, people only want classes at between 8 and 9 in the morning, maybe a little earlier, or they want lunchtime, but they
Exactly.
all want from 6 until 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So when you're doing in person, it's really hard to do a class at 6, finish at 7, and be somewhere else
Can be
at
somewhere
7.
else. Yeah, I mean, like even if you want to,
Yeah,
like I am sorry. Yeah. I think if they invent a teleport, you know, or something like this, maybe in this case we can make face to face in this position. But for now, it's impossible.
yeah. So, but I do a slightly cheaper rate online because I don't have to travel. And I think it's kind of hard to develop a rapport, a relationship with someone online. It's quite difficult.
Yeah.
Um, it takes a while. I remember years and years ago, I was dating a Spanish girl, and she went back to Sevilla when I still lived in Scotland, and we were keeping in touch with FaceTime,
Hmm.
and it was awful. I hated it like with a passion because you just can't get the emotional connection.
Exactly.
But then after months of doing it, and then after moving to Spain and teaching online, it's second nature, you know.
Yeah. But okay, with the relationship, it's a little bit different, you know, because like with the relationship, you need a connection for sure. With the student, for sure, as well. And I perfectly understood you because this is the same for me. I got before, like I moved here, before I started to work online, I, of course, had only face to face, and I love it, you know, I love it because with the person, it's still different. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
same, like we still like talking right now, right? But it's
Hmm.
like you don't feel this the same emotions, you know, because when you're the person, you kind of, oh my god, you observe the emotions of the other person. You know, the students is the same. But yeah,
Totally,
I miss
totally
it.
true.
I
Yeah,
miss it.
I miss the environment as well because when you like, well, look at us. We're both in a white room. There's nothing to do here.
With the black chair.
Yeah, black chairs, white room, standard
White.
teaching, white. Yeah, totally same. It's a clean look. But when you're in a coffee shop or even if you take a student for a walk or you go to a museum, there's all of these things you can talk about. Whereas when you're online, you really have to prepare absolutely everything
Yeah,
that you
I
want
know
visually
what
to
you
use.
mean. Yes, but you said you went to the museum with the students.
Yeah,
Has it
yeah.
class?
I've done museums. I've done museums, walks in the park, loads of things. It depends on what you're teaching. Sometimes, what I really like if I'm teaching business English, especially at a really low level, is to walk around the office and just, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? And to get them to work with like how much and how many. You know, how many printers do you have here? You know, how
Mhm.
much does the cartridge cost? And you can kind of get into, I guess, to develop and improve their skills for what they do on a day-to-day basis. It's real.
Yeah.
On a computer, I ain't got a printer here, so it's impossible to have that natural context.
Wow, this is amazing. Like I never thought about making a class in the park. It never occurred to me, you know. But this is really,
Oh, that's great.
especially as you said, now I was thinking, reflecting while you're talking, it's just super cool for the people, especially who works in the office. Imagine they were all the time
Mhm.
in the office, they see this environment,
Mhm.
because I worked in the office, I know what it is, so I hate it so much. And they will walk in the park and you enjoy the class even better. Because like, usually if I come to someone who works in the office, uh, it was in the evening, and he was sitting like, okay, English, okay, I'm ready. Because of course it's understandable, even if I try to be like super positive, friendly and whatever, but still it's like 7 hours in the office, 8 hours or whatever, someone is 10 or something, and like still in the office is like wants to for a fresh air. But I think in Spain it's a little bit different, because in Spain it's such an amazing environment. Imagine in Russia in winter, it's like,
Oh
okay,
God.
let's go to the park. And get freezed. But this
Oh,
is,
that's tricky. No,
yeah.
it's good for when you're outside because, well, especially in a park, you can talk color, and even the finer parts of color, shade, light,
Yeah.
shadow. When you're sitting on a park bench, even little things like wildlife.
Mhm.
Some of the things that when you're a teacher, you get bogged down. You kind of think, oh, I've got to teach them this and that, and you forget some day-to-day things that you don't think about teaching until you're there.
It's true, like really. Yeah, so that is, sometimes I notice that, like, okay, because before teaching, well, okay, along with the teaching, I do translation as well. And when I studied, I
Wow.
do translation. So you imagine, right? I translated like stuff about the gasoline, about oil, about like technical stuff, economics, politics, and then like I came to the restaurant with it was like at the beginning of my career. I came to the restaurant with our clients in my company, because I work in architectural company. Okay.
Mhm.
Years I work in architectural company, and I know a bunch of words from architecture. Like, oh my God, I was like everything from architecture. And then we came to the restaurant, and I don't know why, but they didn't have the menu in English. So they have only in Russian. Okay. And I was like, okay, Chris, you need to translate. And I was like, okay, let's translate. Let's remember how is the names of the food in English, because my
Yep.
head was so full about the technical terms, some business stuff or negotiation, like a simple, like, okay, potato, of course I know, but there is like I forgot how is the meatball, there is like in Russian, it's like frikadelki or tifteli, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, how is it? Like, I started to, to invent, and I said, like, this is the balls with meat and something, and onion inside. So, like, what else I could say? But it was like, really, I noticed this, that you forgot, like, really sometimes the simple stuff.
Yeah, it's the basics that are most important. I remember teaching a guy, and I've got some of my background from my studies. I thought, oh, I knew his profession, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, so I'm going to start talking about marketing, advertising, and some of the psychology
Mm-hmm.
words that go into it. And we started speaking, and this guy, he was speaking more eloquently than I was.
In
And I
English.
was supposed to be teaching him, in English. And
Okay.
I thought, so we got maybe 20 minutes into the class, and I said to him, why are you here? I was like, this is ridiculous. And he said, no, well, I know how to talk. So it was business English class. He goes, I know how to talk about all the parts of all the aspects of my business, all the terminology. But I want to learn how to order a steak in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because he said, my business, when I talk business, I'm in a restaurant or I'm talking about someone's family. I need to learn the day to day. And I think this is something that when we teach business, we've got to remember business is relationships.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of English that you really need to teach them, you
It's,
know. And it was a good moment for me. That kind of like, oh, okay, I don't have to be a professional, like have, because sometimes when you're teaching professional English, you think, oh my God, I don't do this job. How can I teach this?
yeah.
But you can. It's the relationship building.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah, this is what I like about our profession, because you really can meet with the people from different spheres, and you can learn with them. Because like sometimes, like I had the architects.
mm-hmm.
Okay, I like, because I work in architectural bureau. It was a Russian architectural bureau. There are a lot of students who, or like a lot of people, sorry, who don't speak English, but they need it because we work a lot with foreigners. And I have
Right.
a bunch of students from them, and I like, oh, I prepared a lot of stuff on the architecture. You know, we read articles in architecture, we watch videos in architecture and everything. And I also have guys who work in IT, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
I also, you know, kind of try to find books or something which is connected with IT. And you know what I like to do is usually when I'm working with the people, of course, we need to watch something and read something. It's essential. It's like
Mm-hmm.
especially watching, because like it's help to, you know, understand the
Mm-hmm.
speech and at the same time also learn something. You will never
Mm-hmm.
know, but in a matter of time you will use the same phrases. Like, you know, it just goes with you. So yeah, and I always like ask my students like, okay, you choose please whatever movie you want to or TV show to watch, because I want you to be interested, you know, because of course
Mm-hmm.
I can recommend whatever you want to, but if you're not going to be interested, you maybe wouldn't watch it with the, you know, like, oh my god, this is so interesting, I want to learn what is next. I want to like so yeah, I love in this aspect. I love the translation as well in this aspect,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because you kind of in many spheres you like a lot of stuff you learn, not only enrich your vocabulary but also, you know, like enrich your brain and everything. But translation was so boring for me. Oh my god, sitting 8 hours or more translating under the computer, I distracted so much, like really so much. I was like, okay, I think I need to eat something. Okay, like 1 hour passed. Or like, okay, I think I need to call my mom or something, like, you know, all the time a distraction. I always find a distraction, you know. But with the teaching it's different. It's the same, you kind of speak with different people with different levels, with different background, different stories. This is amazing. I really love it, you know, all the time. I love this part of my classes when we do conversation, really, because it's like, oh my god, they tell so much stories about
Mm-hmm.
traveling, like, because unfortunately I haven't had a chance to travel a lot in my life since I work so much translating. But yeah, and they spoke about the like traveling where have been
Mm-hmm.
and cultures of this country, and I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing, like, can you speak more please? But yeah,
No, totally.
I love it.
It's amazing what you get. I think it's one of the joys of being a teacher is that
Yeah,
you get to meet people and you get to hear their stories. You
exactly.
know, like I think when I first moved to Spain, one of the best things was learning about Spain from my students. You know, I would they would say, "Oh, you have to visit this, you have to go here," you know, and I was like, "Okay, I'm getting paid for
Yeah,
this.
it
This is
was
amazing."
you know, it's the same because I have a student, and then, you know, he was like, okay, he's telling me the word in Spanish, and I like, okay, I don't know what is in English. Some words I know because my Spanish is not so good for now. And like he tell me, we translate together, you know, and I learn with him, and I was like, okay, you pay me and I'm learning, you know, and I'm learning Spanish as well. So it's just like, if to think about it, it's like not fair, right? But yeah.
Especially with expressions. I find that like yeah, because well, obviously like I spend a lot of time teaching phrasal verbs. It's probably like the the most thing I do is teach phrasal verbs. But I think with expressions, when you learn expressions in Spanish, you know, because they don't translate exactly, it's always kind of some old grandma's expression, you know, and
Yes.
I love learning them. And it's nice when you tell them a Spanish one, sorry, an English one, and they go, "We have something similar," and you learn it, and you think, "Oh, I've got paid for that."
I know it. But yes, Spanish language has so many expressions. I think this is like the language I never like met languages with so many interesting like expressions. Even in English, not so much. In Russian, it's
Not
just
as
Russian is a little bit like
yeah.
we have a lot of dirty words in comparison with English, for example. I think we need to make a vocabulary of dirty words, and in Russian, you know, it's a variation of one and the same, because what is like in English is like fucking shit, and that's it. Actually, in Spanish is the same. A lot of like joder, mierda, whatever. And I don't know all of them, you know. I'm still
Oh, geez. But they have some really funny ones like well when you learn to speak colloquial English, you have to learn what when we use the word fuck, what we use it for. When you meet a Scottish person, they'll use fuck instead of a comma. They're just yeah, it's funny. When you meet someone who's really really local, they swear so much it's like a comma. But with Spanish, I remember when I first arrived, like listening to someone talking and having to remove the word coño to actually understand what was being said because they use it like a comma, especially in Madrid where I remember this moment,
Uh-huh.
and it's learning these, and sometimes when you take the, the use of it and you translate it into English, you're like, okay, that's really funny. But it's vice versa. And I think it's one of the, when people translate too much between languages, it's something I'm always telling my students not to do.
Yeah,
Don't translate too much. Try
exactly.
and flow with it because the translations, especially Google Translate, are just awful.
Ooh. No, now it's better. Now it's better, to be honest. It's
Oh,
getting
really?
better. Yeah, but no, for sure, it's just like you don't need to translate everything because this is what you said. Me having a background in the translation, I know it's just in different languages you express something differently. Of course,
Absolutely.
something, yeah, of course, base or something, but even for example, structure in Russian language is different than in English because we can say like we say in English strictly, I love you, for example. I go to the shop. In Russian, you can say shop I go to the shop I. So we can change, the subject, object, the verb, whatever place we want
Wow.
to. Yeah. So and for many people, like especially for Russians, when like, have you heard Russian people as a student?
Oh, have I had a Russian student? Nope, I don't think I've had any Eastern European students at all. None. All my students have been Latin language based.
Ah, okay.
Um,
Okay, because like for example, I noticed like since I'm I like Russian, so what I noticed like the Russian, they want to speak in English the same like in Russian, the same construction. I'm always like, okay, guys, this is super simple. You don't need to invent like something like absolutely ridiculous. It's just like subject, verb, and everything else afterwards. It's just super simple. No, they try to put everything like in Russian or something. But this is funny. I was like, so you said most of your students are Latin American, right? So like
no,
Spain.
no, they're Latin based. So they'll either be they're what we call the Romance languages. So I've had one or two Portuguese, two French students,
Oh.
and the rest have been either Spanish or South American.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's been, I guess my specialization has been working with Spanish to English
Yeah,
because
my
it's,
specialization English and Spanish market.
yeah, Spanglish. I'm like the
Spanish is
Spanglish
oh,
professor.
perfect.
Because even when I first started, when I did my course, when I did my training to become a teacher, my whole class, although they were living in Edinburgh, were all Spanish.
Uh-huh.
So from day one, I've been working with Spanish people learning English. So it's
Okay.
and it has its little common errors you get used to. They still make me smile when I hear them. I
Yeah,
still
this
laugh.
is what I wanted to ask. What do you find about what is the peculiarities about the Spanish people in teaching, like in learning
Mm,
everything? Because I'm interesting. I know the Russians a lot. Now I'm adapting to the Spanish. I don't have still
mm,
too much. And I want to see the difference of teaching different nations because you had like also
sure.
French. I'm interested about French. This is what I'm very, very interested because French is
Yeah.
very
French. I don't have French guys. I've only been teaching, and he speaks. I mean, his English is very high level. I was preparing him for university, so he was away to study in English. So he was more or less a C1 level speaker. He was just learning the specifics of academic. And to be honest, probably he could have passed the C1 exam if he wanted to, but he didn't need it. He was going to university. He was a lawyer, human resources, super intelligent guy. But
Wow.
with the Spanish, the, the problem with Spanish to English is Spanish is such uh, vowels wise, like vocales. It's
Mhm.
so basic. There are 5 sounds.
Yeah.
So when you tell them, hey, in English, there's between 18 and 24, depending on which part of the English speaking world you're in,
Uh-huh.
they're like, so they can't make certain vowel sounds very easily. This is really difficult for them. And also English often ends in a consonant. And for a lot of Spanish people, because the Spanish language is very oh ah with
Yeah,
its
yeah,
sounds. So when you have a consonant S finish, sometimes the S just disappears, even though they're reading, and you're like, you just missed an S. And they're like, what?
yeah, it's true.
Because it's not part of them. So these are the kind of things they pick up on. Well, I pick up on and see. And there's lots of little mistakes they make because they just can't make the vowel sounds until they start to learn. I learned these as a child, and it's all muscle movement in the mouth. So learning this as a 30, 40-year-old person, it's really hard, So just learning a little tricks, how to teach them things, make it fun, and getting them to speak. Once they get the flow of it, then it's okay.
Yeah, I also noticed with the like pronunciation, it's a little bit like it's very funny. We always like,
Love it.
especially I love how we pronounce, for example, how, but they don't pronounce H. The ow.
Ow.
Yeah, yeah, because H doesn't pronounce in Spanish, and they're like okay, it's not Spanish. Let's say like it's how. So yeah, very very nice pronunciation. I'm really at first it was very difficult for me to get used to this. I was just like listening and I couldn't, my ear, I couldn't hear because Russian perfectly, Russian I know perfectly. Like, let me speak through my heart or something like this. But I spoke with the, I don't know, you can tell me as well. I spoke with the American guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me because many people tell me that I don't have a lot of Russian pronunciation, I don't have this Russian accent too much.
Mm-hmm.
He told me that I still heard, this is like in Russian, a little bit like pum, pum, like a streak at the end or something like this, because it's like a Russian peculiarities. And I don't know, what do you think? Because you're native. You also hear this in my accent or not?
No. When you're speaking, I can hear you have that kind of Russian twang to your accent, but it's not strong. I think earlier when you were doing the that you don't have that, thankfully, because that's quite intimidating. That's what we find scary about the Russian accent when it's like this.
It's a scary language,
Yeah, it's really funny. I watched just a different story. I was listening to a comedian and he was talking. When Russians speak Russian, it sounds beautiful. It's the way the Russian accent with the Russian language. It's only when Russians speak English that it sounds scary.
But it's true. I actually agree with this.
It was an hysterics.
Terrible.
I'm very interested actually when you said about translating, right? So you do a lot of translation stuff. When you're watching maybe something in English with Russian subtitles, do you ever look at it and go, that's just not right? Like you're watching Netflix or something.
Well, to be honest, I haven't watched something in English with Russian subtitles for quite a time. But yeah, I remember there are times that at the beginning, okay, now I watch mostly in English, everything, because I don't like Russian cinematography, unfortunately. So yeah, anyways, I don't find it super appealing, but yeah, I remember I was some of them, I was watching, I was thinking, it doesn't sound yeah. I remember, what the situation, there is an American movie or something like this, and they have a evil Russians for sure, all the time. It's just
standard,
no words about this. Yeah. And they translated, there is a Russian speaking something in Russian and then translated, and I was reading and I was like, come on guys, this is not true. It was in our language it was wow, a lot of expression and everything, and there's so simple. But it is also, I guess, the peculiarities of the English language, because English language is a little bit more it to be very very not too much, shorter the better. In Russian we will oh my god, we will make a I remember, like, really, when I translated some law documents for the architectural bureau, it was
Hmm.
actually about the system of the garbage system working,
Oh,
very
how
interesting.
much fun!
Oh my God, I learned so much, to be honest. I never know how it works, but after this, I was like a professional, you can ask me, I will like answer everything. But the funny thing was that we have one sentence with this size, okay?
Hmm.
The whole paragraph is one sentence in Russian. And I was like, mm-hmm. In English, it doesn't work because in
No.
English, you need like to make it shorter. So I
Hmm.
see it and I try to divide by senses, like where with English I can stop and everything. So this is, for example, also the thing because like English is really like shorter, shorter, shorter. The shorter, the better. The simpler, the better. It doesn't like a lot of complications.
Absolutely. I've done some academic stuff with students, and they've written something in English, and even reading it in my mind in English, I've had to stop to breathe, because in English you can't speak. I don't know if it's how we form words or how we talk, but you can't do a long sentence in English without stopping to breathe. That's why our sentences are so short. Sometimes I'm reading something, oh, I'm getting, I'm nearly dying, and I have to go out. Whoa, this needs a comma or something. You're killing me. It's a big, big difference. Spanish is the same. I think if Russians like that, Spanish is they have super long sentences.
Yes.
And whenever I've done a translation document, I've had to turn it over. But I was really interested in what you said about the translations of films, because I think that's one of the best reasons for people to learn English is when you watch Netflix or HBO or any of these things, the translations are just not good enough.
Yeah.
And if you can understand it in English, it's much better. I've been watching things like I'm trying to think something I watched recently. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I was watching it and going, that doesn't make sense. It's maybe the English is ruder or funnier. There's maybe been a joke, and
Mhm.
I've been laughing, and I've turned to look at my Spanish friends, and they're not laughing, and I'm reading the subtitles, going, okay, because it wasn't funny. It just doesn't work. So I guess this is one of the major importances of if you like culture, especially like the English speaking culture, you have to be able to watch it without subtitles.
Yeah.
This doesn't work.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. But I really like, I don't like the translation, but I really like that I did it as a study, because
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm,
little bit different approach to the
mm,
language, particularly, because when you learn, like, I think, in my personal opinion, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but
mm-hmm,
mm, I don't think that now teaching is it needs to be studied at university, like as
mm-hmm,
teaching, especially
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
if I'm not going to be like a professor in the university, or I'm not going
mm-hmm,
to be with the children. Even with the children, I think at school, maybe at school only, like a public
mm-hmm,
school, you need
mm-hmm,
to learn because it's a little bit different structure. But being as
mm-hmm,
a teacher, like this, like a private teacher, I think
mm-hmm,
you do, because in a matter of the time you develop your own structure of the
mm-hmm,
teaching. For example, me personally, I I prefer with my students to have like a friendly, atmosphere. I don't want
mm-hmm,
to feel too much pressure. I don't want to like, okay, like a strict, with the glasses and everything. Okay, Kaddish, learn. I want it to be like I'm a friend. They can come to me, always, like, of course. And I also try to adapt to their needs. So, for example, they tell me like, okay, I know a lot of grammar, and kind of, or they say like, oh, I'm super bored with grammar, I don't want to study, and I was like, okay, we're not going to concentrate a lot on the grammar, because like, yeah, I understand it, but we need a little bit of this as well, for you to speak better.
mm-hmm,
But I promise
mm-hmm,
you that, for example, 40 minutes of our class we will be doing like activities, speaking and everything, and like 20 we will took this on this or this, because it needs for you. You want to, it doesn't matter, you can speak not correctly grammatically right at the beginning, because what if you study languages at first, you just need to learn to express yourself. All the
mm-hmm,
grammar and everything, it will comes up with the, like, as a matter of the time when you're practicing. And I was
mm-hmm,
like, okay, but still, you want your speech be very like clear, beautiful, right? So we need a little bit of grammar. But of course, if you don't like it, I'm not going like 50 minutes like grammar, 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 or something like this. So this is like my approach. I don't have a like a, of course I have like material which I use from time to time for the same student with the same level, but usually it's like every time something different, especially the students with different background in different sphere they work or anything, because I mostly work with adults. Okay, with children
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit easier because you have like a bunch of the games prepared and you just play with them or something. But with adults, it's usually you need to find a connection with this person for them to like it. Because for me,
Mm-hmm.
important is just not only to give the knowledge, which I love. It's like that's why I decided to become a teacher first of all, but yeah, but it's also to be the connection that he really comes to you, and like it's so I love to get the messages from my students say like, oh my god, it was so nice, the classes was such amazing, and I feel like, oh my god, I like smile, you know, the whole day after this because it's super like you feel that your work is like essential, you know, it brings
Mm-hmm.
something, and I really love about
Mm-hmm.
it. And with translating, for example, well, yeah, it brings some value for sure, but I just like be with my character, like super, like oh, like this, you know, I need the all the time doing something in translation. I just I cannot sit. I just cannot sit. It's impossible to make
I
this.
hear you.
But it was
Well,
like as I started, it was super nice because I learned language, you know, I learned how
mm-hmm.
to feel, they show the importance, you know, and I can, for example, sometimes with the Russian student, for sure not with Spanish, to show like why this structure in Russian, for example, doesn't work, and why you don't need to translate the
Mm-hmm.
exact words, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
like in English there are also one word with the several meanings, you know, like in many different contexts. This is like the most, it's even was difficult for me, you know, it's just like you're translating something, you open the vocabulary, the dictionary, sorry, and you're like so many meanings, and like okay, let's think which is will be perfect here. Because
It
in
makes a nightmare.
yes, yeah, it's a nightmare, like really, if you translate it's a nightmare. And also when you translate, for example, from Russian to English, it also need to be like, you know, to proper like a phrasal verb or something, or which is
Mm-hmm.
like the same, because for example you can have two verbs with the more or less same meaning, and you need to think which one is used here and which one is used here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I know the usage because like I heard it somewhere, you know, or just like I feel it is correct, you know. Now it's a matter of most
Mm-hmm.
feeling. And sometimes students ask me like, why we use this verb here, not here? And I was like, interesting question. Like, you know, you tell this, but it's, when you tell with the other, it wouldn't be correct, you know, it's not normal. It's like a taste of the a language. You feel this, like, okay, it's not correct.
I
Like,
think that's just developing their feeling for using the language is so important. You know, like when I first studied, you know, I examined the grammar-led syllabus, so where you're just force feeding them grammar, you know, like your spoons of grammar.
uh-huh.
And to be honest, I think I was more bored doing it than the students were getting taught. I quickly realized it wasn't my style of teaching.
Okay.
And that's when I started to explore more contextual styles of teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So always going, okay, let's just create an environment and go, what expressions, how do I need to talk to be able to express what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
Because I quickly, especially when I moved to Spain, I quickly realized that the majority of my students knew grammar. They knew it. They could tell me all of the tenses. You
Yes.
know, they could do the conditionals, but they just didn't use them at the right time. And that's what made me realize that it's, for some reason, the traditional school teaching method is very much, I think they have a syllabus to work through, and you know,
Yes.
we have to pass exams and so on and so
Exactly.
forth. So this was what I'm the complete opposite of. I just always was like, okay, where do you need to talk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's explore this scenario. Because as you said, that when words have different meanings in different contexts, if you start with the word, then you have to deal with 20 different contexts. But if you start with the context, the scenario, then you can be like, okay, this is what you can do here. Let's
Yeah.
practice this. Cool, you've got that. Let's try somewhere else. you know? And that's the kind of theme that I've developed as a teacher. is
Mm-hmm.
instead of like going in with a plan as to what I do with every single student, I first of all start by saying, what, where do you need to speak English? Why?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know? And then then I'm going to just give you toys to play with, and we can start to like work
Exactly.
with the language, have fun. You
Yeah,
know.
this is the most important thing because you take it, you're not at school, right? You're not at school, you're not at university. You want to get
Correct.
knowledge, but you want to get knowledge having fun, really. Because if you like look at us as well. I would prefer to have a fun class, you know. I remember my university studies and it was like super boring, you know, you see, you know, it's like English. And sometimes it was like, oh my God, you're not kind of, you don't have this like, I don't know, feeling. Like,
Yep.
oh yeah, I want to, because I want like my students coming to me and say like, okay, I want to have another class. So it's so what's so interesting. And like really, because I think our approach to teaching is more or less the same. I also do the
Mm-hmm.
same.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like
Good. Good.
yeah, if student ask for grammar, because I have some students who said like, okay, I want to do exercises in grammar. Of
Mm-hmm.
course I
Mm-hmm.
will, I'm not going to like, no, let's speak a lot, you know, I want to speak. But for them, of course, I'm doing this. But I also find out that for me, if I have like a structure, I feel a little bit like I'm feeling bored. And when I feel bored,
Yeah.
I just don't like it as well, you know. I don't want to feel bored because the student will feel it if I'm bored on.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, every teacher who teaches English, who's moved to Spain, we're not teaching for money. We're not teaching because we think we're going to be rich. I'm doing it because I enjoy it, and
Exactly.
it's a lifestyle that I wanted. And if I'm not enjoying teaching, first of all, I'm going to hate it. And
Exactly.
also, the student's not going to learn because if I'm faking it, then it's not original. It's not real. I think that sometimes when you have a funny moment in class, that has an emotion attached to it, so it helps their memory. They're going to remember this little thing because we laughed about it or
Yes.
whatever. What was the one that I was teaching the word tipsy the other day, and the student loves this word and never heard of it before. When you're just a little bit drunk, and she was like, tipsy. So I said to her, what did you, in our next class, I was like, what did you do at the weekend? She's like, I got tipsy. Woo!
Because it's a
And
very
she's
funny
remembered it.
sound. It's like a very
It's
funny sound and like a, yeah, and the
totally.
meaning is super like okay, I'm tipsy a little bit. Oh, I love this
A
word
bit
by the
tipsy.
way. I love to
Yeah,
use it.
it's just little words like these and little things and little scenarios and little expressions that you can say, and these are the fun parts of teaching. And I think that like when you were talking about do we need to be educated at university level to teach, I think with the school program and these things we need degrees, right? But I think what's more important when you're an English teacher with adults is having some life experience,
Mm-hmm.
having something you can share,
Exactly.
and having the ability to be empathetic and walk in the student's shoes. So
Exactly.
although I'm not an architect, I've taught architects. I can be like, right, okay, let's talk about this building, and I can try and get into their professional lifestyle and mindset.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to do a course though. I think it's important to have done some kind of TEFL course, and not to save too much money on it.
For
There's a
sure.
lot of
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of courses out there. I think the most important part of any of the courses that I saw are when you get the hours teaching a class with a teacher watching you, because that's where I learned the most. I had phenomenal mentors when I was becoming
Mm-hmm.
a teacher who would say, Graeme, you're really good at this, so stop doing it. I want you to do something else that you find difficult. And they challenged and pushed me. And I
Oh,
think this
it's
is,
amazing.
yeah, this is what you need. There's a lot of online courses that whenever I see them, I think, well, you've read a book to become an English teacher. That doesn't really work for me. You need to be with another teacher and them saying, hey, that's good, or you need to change this.
Yeah, this is amazing because it's for the best how we learn. We are not ideal, all of us. And this
Ah,
is the best way if someone like told you, okay, like Chris, you have the problem here, you need to work here. For example, here you're perfect, you create this connection, you give a lot of, but like here you're a little bit lack of this. So you're like, okay, you saw yourself, because you don't see yourself from the perspective, you know, you see only students, and student doesn't know nothing about English usually. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they can give some, like, you know, I remember that I like a stuff, then students tell me some words, and I was like, I really didn't know this. Like, you know, where did you learn this word? And I was like, okay. But the funny thing that okay, now we can also speak about the like being a native, you know, like and because me, I'm not native, right? And sometimes students ask me, like, you know, some words, and they expect that I know every word. Okay. They expect that I'm like a walking vocabulary, which is like, you tell me everything, but this is not true. Of course, I know a lot of words for sure, but sometimes, you know, it's just like pumped out of your head, and you just, sometimes even in Russian I don't remember this. Like, you ask me, and I was like, wait a sec, how it's in Russian, so yeah. But yeah, why I wanted to speak about being a native as well, because here I started to be a native as a Russian teacher. Okay, so it was my first experience. I decided to try it and see how it goes. It was very funny for me, because like, oh yeah, I speak Russian for sure, very good, if you can imagine. But oh my God, when it comes to grammar, well, start with this. With Russian grammar is super, 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 super complicated. And
can only imagine.
Yeah, when they asked me like to explain it, I was like, oh my God, I need to prepare. So I prepared for Russian class hours. When for English, I prepare like, you know, 20 minutes, or depend, you know, on the like what kind of class I'm having. Hours for Russian, because I needed to refresh in my memory the grammar of Russian, because I don't remember. You use it and you just don't know it. So, and that's why I want to ask you, because you're like a native, how, like in your, how it's happening, like, because I think natives are perfect for speaking, you know, because you're listening, the accent, they know all words, expression, and blah blah blah. But if to explain grammar, for example, for the beginners, let's take beginners whom you need to explain grammar. So do you find it complicated for yourself, you know, that you don't remember? Take a course, so I guess this is a little bit different, but anyways, yeah.
Right, that's the key. So when we're talking about certification, you know, okay, so for me, someone who is non-native and has learned English as a second language to a really high level, they probably are very capable without a qualification of teaching English grammar, because they've done it, they know it. And when you go to school in the UK, we don't study a lot of grammar. As you've probably noticed with the English language, the spelling is an absolute mess. Things do not sound how they're written. So
it's better than French, so.
French is like this too, okay. Because my memories of school were spelling, lots of spelling. So when I first started studying, I remember I think the second day of my CELSA course, and they said, someone mentioned the word gerund. And I remember sitting there going, what is a gerund? I had no idea what past participle was, what the past simple, I had no idea of tenses. I had no basic knowledge of grammar terminology whatsoever. It was a very hard 4 weeks for me. And my first year as a teacher, every class where I was teaching grammar, I would have like sweaty palms, you know, so nervous way to teach grammar. But eventually I learned my own style and way to do it. And I mean, I've taught a TEFL course, so I'm used to teaching and exploring grammar with teachers since. But yeah, at first for natives, it's really, really hard. And I still have a belief that when it comes to the lower levels of learning English, I think you're better off with a teacher. This is only my opinion. Who's learned the language. You can't beat personal experience. I can talk theoretically about grammar, but there's a friend of mine, Jose, who has achieved he's C2 level. He's done all of the exams in English to C2. There is no one that I know who I would recommend more for teaching grammar than a Spanish person who's learned it all. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But when it comes, But when it comes to the higher level stuff, I think being a native is an advantage when you get to the B1, B2 level, and it's more the colloquial and learning how to have more flow, and as you said, the pronunciation. But the learning curve for us natives with grammar is exactly the same as you with Russian. It's brutal.
This is the problem. Yeah. This is what I also thought about this. Even before I was like speaking with the native, even before I started to be like a native teacher by myself, I realized because you don't know your rules. You just really don't know. You're just like, yeah, you use it correctly for sure, but just you don't know it. And this is like, the better, if you like really want to learn the grammar, as you said, it's better to have someone who studied, like who is non-native.
100%. I mean, there's a simple one that I do with tenses, and that's like when everyone learns the present perfect, they learn it on this, I lived in Barcelona, I have lived in Barcelona, and for instance, but we don't seem to teach the rest of it. There's several reasons why we use the present perfect, but every time I start teaching a student, no matter what level, normally in my second or third class, I go, you're using the past simple when you should use the present perfect and vice versa, because they just haven't learned when to use it. And I think that's the problem with like traditional teaching. If you just fill them with information and you don't play with it, you use role plays, right? And environmental stuff, that's the best. It's the most fun.
Exactly.
Role playing things. Did you role play with the architects when you were doing that, or do customer client sort of stuff?
Yeah. I try to do it like this. So for example, like, okay, let's imagine that you are like, I'm a client, or I don't know, I'm a whatever subcontractor, some consultant.
Yep.
Let's develop this, like sell me the project, explain me what the project is, something like this, because what that is need. They needed the communication with like a business English, and they need a technical one. For example, we read some article about something like, I don't know, architectural object or whatever. And I was like, okay, we discuss during the class. And at the end, I was like, okay, I want you to imagine that this is your project, and I want you to sell it. So try to use the vocabulary from this article, because they use a lot of like vocabulary which is necessary for you, which I even sometimes didn't know before. But anyways, so, and at the same time, you can express your opinion, you can sell it, you present it, something like this, or give your opinion and say what you would do different. It depends, it depends what I want to practice, advantages, disadvantages, maybe like how to say it, to say your opinion and everything. But yeah, this is amazing with the I love role plays. This is the best one. And it's practicing, it's speaking, and the grammar and everything. Like it is everything in this.
And I think that's right. Focusing on when you were asking, like, specifically what I've learned about working in Spain as an English teacher, is that pretty much most students who've studied well at school, they can read and write in English reasonably well. They can take their time, but their listening skills and their speaking skills, they're just off. So this is the kind of difference, I think, when you have a private teacher or you go to a really good academy with a small class, is that the teachers are going to focus on you speaking and listening.
Exactly. Also, yeah, this is the thing. This is I also noticed with the Russian students, for example. I by myself, before I started English, I was like this, we had the base at school. So we had grammar, because we started like from the like very like small, like, I don't know, 5th grade, 4th grade or something. I don't remember exactly. Oh my God, it was so long time ago. I'm so old. But yeah, but if you start, like a lot of foreigners, I lived in Moscow, and a lot of foreigners, I met with a lot of foreigners, especially during the FIFA, World Cup, because there are a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I met with them, yeah, and
sorry about that.
I met with them, and they told me like, oh, you Russian? You don't speak English? I said like, no, we do actually. We know. We can say the direction for sure, like where is the bus stop or where is the restaurant for sure. But we are so afraid of speaking. We are so afraid of speaking. And I think this is the problem from the educational system in Russia. Because, everything is built, or I guess it's everywhere right now, to be honest, but everything is built on the grades. You need to get it by the grades. And you like the student, they have this idea, okay, I need 5. I do whatever, it doesn't matter what. If I even don't understand, I will just learn by heart. I will tell it like 5, perfect. I'm good to go, you know? And this is
Mm-hmm.
so this is like strict kind of rules of education. So we taught in Russia that if you like, you need to be perfect if you want to like, nobody tell me like, okay, speak whatever, like in English especially, like speak whatever, just speak, you know, nobody tell
Mm-hmm.
me. So this is, I guess this is one of the problem, we're just so afraid of speaking
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of this, what was based on us during the school.
That
And
level of perfection and pressure is too much of a burden for a student.
exactly.
I think you're right. I think from the education perspective, and this is in pretty much every country in the world, I'm sure. Classrooms are too big, so it's
Yeah,
impossible, and that's not the fault
true.
of. I mean, we want smaller classrooms. We've got to pay more taxes, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe.
I've heard a lot of like, you know, some of my colleagues will say, oh, the level of education in Spain for teaching English is bad. I think that's an insult to Spanish education system, especially the teachers. I think the teachers are amazing. I just think
Mhm,
the job they're asked to do is too
mhm.
hard. They need more, well, literally smaller classes, you
Exactly.
know, and that opportunity to spend the time exploring the language with the kids rather than just feeding them it. Because when you're little, you don't have those inhibitions that we have. You know, we're scared. Now, I
Hmm.
don't know about you, but you're learning Spanish right now. Okay, so when you're just speaking Spanish at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're a little bit nervous. But after you've had a couple of glasses of Sauvignon Blanc and you're out with your friends, you have a
More confidence.
little tipsy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
Start
keep
to speak with some flow, right?
yeah,
And it's the same for me. My Spanish is better when I've had a couple of beers because I don't care about making mistakes. You
exactly.
know, not that I'm recommending we all get drunk when we're trying to
You
learn
recommend people
languages.
to come drunk to your class? Like, okay, drink before a couple of beers and then come to me.
Hey, I'm cool with that. That's good with me. Maybe not my teenage kids, but the adults, yeah, more than likely. I've done that. I've actually went for a beer with a few of my students.
Yeah.
If my class was on a Friday, I always say, let's go for a beer. I just think it's trying to get past that fear and just go for it. Like what you said previously, you don't have to be perfect. Just talk. And it's okay to make mistakes. It's
I
not
will
going to be
correct you.
perfect.
That's why you have me. I will correct you and you will remember. You will make mistake again, again. I will correct you and you will remember eventually this one.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you. Do you notice students when they make a mistake, they apologize? Like they'll make a mistake and they
Sometimes,
go, oh, I'm
sometimes,
sorry. Oh, I'm
yes,
sorry.
yes, yes. Sometimes, you know, not with everyone, not all the time, but sometimes, yeah. Ah, yes, sorry, sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like this. I'm like, for what? Like, really? For
What are you
what's
apologizing for? You
warning?
know,
What's warning? Yeah, 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 it's
it,
true.
it's like I think it's part of being a teacher. You know, they think you're this perfectionist, and when they make a mistake, they have to be sorry, and I'm like, what are you apologizing for? Don't be silly.
Exactly.
Make more mistakes.
Yeah, because you
You know,
learn. The more mistake you made, the better you will be. This is the rule of
absolutely,
life.
absolutely. Keep trying.
Yeah, keep trying, keep pushing.
Yep,
But this
that's
is
it.
a
Keep pushing.
important. Classes, by the way. So you said that they get smaller classes and everything, but this is
Mm-hmm.
true. While I wanna from this topic goes to the. Have you ever taught in groups?
Yeah, yeah,
So this is what I want to
yeah.
talk. It's the same, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because
Mm-hmm.
like even in groups in language schools, right? Or that like usually there are 6, maximum 10 people,
Mm-hmm.
and the school, I think they're failing to choose the same level of the students because it's difficult. I agree. I totally agree. It's very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to find one and the same. And I worked also as at language school, and we had groups. And I noticed that it's very for the teacher, it's very difficult. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have this someone with the low level of English and someone with the
Mm-hmm.
high level of English, and you need to be like you cannot stay a lot on the same, like, you know, subject for the low, because the high will be bored. and you also
Mhm.
cannot, like, be concentrated only on the high level English, students with high level English, right? So you kind of, you try to be in the middle. But
Mhm.
anyways, whenever I always try to repeat maybe to the subject to go, to maintain. Still, there are 2 3 people who dropped out, because they just
Mhm.
couldn't keep up, and I felt it, when I was teaching.
Mhm.
They cannot, they just cannot maintain this level. And of course, this is a some people, of course, have this kind of feeling of the competition, and they're like, okay, he's better than me, and like, okay, but such kind of people are not too much in our work. Usually people like get very like insecure about themselves, and like, okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
better to get out. So this is what I noticed, and I guess at school is the same, like a normal school is the same. The teacher, if you have like 40 30 people, like you cannot to give knowledge to every one of them. You cannot
Mhm.
follow the levels and grades and everything of every one of them, even if it's
And
for
the interest as well.
yeah.
And like what you said earlier, about it being boring. The topic. You know, I think this is the hardest thing. I actually don't mind mixed level classes
Mm-hmm.
as long as they all have the same interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taught. I still teach these groups. I teach a hospitality course, so I teach hotels. So it's normally their commerce team or their receptionists, and we do a lot of teleconference language and things. And I've had students in the same group from B1 to C1, and that's huge.
Yeah.
But I was teaching them all something they didn't know, and I was able to use the higher level students as
Mm-hmm.
examples.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the things I learned from one of my colleagues once was when you have better students,
Mm-hmm.
you can make them the teacher, and you can almost
Yeah,
shut up
yeah.
for the
I
whole
do
class.
the same. I did the same, It's like, okay, imagine that you're a teacher, like explain the grammar.
Explain it, yeah, because the what was explained to me, and I thought it was beautiful, was that my level of English is native, and it seems unattainable. It's so far away for the student, but maybe their friend has
Mm-hmm.
a higher level, but they believe they can get that.
Yeah.
So if I'm allowing them to speak and make that the benchmark that they have to make, and at the same time, the person who's teaching gets to reinforce and confidence in themselves for doing it because I'm giving them the trust and going, hey, you can do
Yeah.
this.
Wow.
So that's okay. But what's really important is that they're all interested in what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a problem with kids. If teenagers are like, if you've got 30, 40 teenagers, the boys, perhaps I'm going to be a little sexist to say the boys, all they're interested in is playing GTA on the computer and Fortnite, you know, um, and football, or whatever. Let's not
Yeah.
forget boys and girls. They're just different tastes. Someone likes reggaeton, the other one's a goth. How do you get all these kids to? Because you want to make it personal and fun, and it's impossible as kids.
Exactly.
But yeah, as I said, I've taught classes where they've been different levels, but they've been in the same company with the same necessity to communicate, and I
Yeah.
can work with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I perfectly understand you. I mean, like, it's better. Yeah, it's like in some office they asked for the teacher. It's the perfect because, like as you said, it's like mutual interest. But when
Yep.
you go to the language school, it's a little bit different because what the language school do, they just like put everyone. It's just like, okay,
Mhm.
whatever they come, we don't have enough people in the group, so whatever you go, you are B1. Okay, you're B1.
Mhm.
Actually, you are A2, but okay, you are B1. You will kind of keep up with them eventually. But like, it's a problem as well because yeah,
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
some of them will keep up, you never know, but some of them will feel so bad and they just drop out of this, and it's so pity because it's just because not
Shame.
because they don't have the ability to study, because I don't believe that there are some people, of course, for whom a language is a little bit more difficult. Yeah, I
Mhm.
understand, but I don't believe that, oh, I'm not good at languages. I don't believe in this.
Mhm.
It's just like you need to push harder, and you need to do for languages every time. You need to at least per day 15 minutes 20 minutes to concentrate on
Mhm.
languages. I always telling my student, I mean, like, I do my best, but like if we have class once per week, what you want? you're not going to speak.
Exactly.
I mean, I will take everything from my class, but you need to practice. You need to watch something, at least you
Mm-hmm.
do something like listen. Maybe you wouldn't understand in the beginning, what is like you are speaking. You will listen, you get used to, and you will like learn a lot of words. Maybe you will get curious, you will be listening. Oh, this word sounds very like funny, and like, okay, let's find out what it is. So it's just like this. But yeah,
You're right. No, you're right. It's the expectation of 1 hour a week that
exactly.
students have. Like I remember, like it was really difficult for me when I first came to Spain because I learned to teach with a group who lived in Edinburgh. So they were coming to classes. I was teaching them something. Then I would see them in 2 days, and they'd practiced. Because every day they're speaking English. So
Exactly.
whatever I taught them, they went and used. So every class I taught them something. We would start the class revising it. They had it. Taught them something else, and I'm like, yes, I'm the best teacher in the world. Woo!
Yeah.
And I got to Spain, and you teach someone something on a Tuesday, and then you see them the next Tuesday, and they've completely forgotten, and you're just like,
Okay. I'm a
you
worse
know,
teacher, right?
I'm worse. What happened to me? I've lost my edge, and I think that's what makes you kind of start to realize that you have to think, okay, where they're going to use this, what they're going to do with it. And
Mhm.
I think like a lot of the material that we use as teachers often kills the class. So a lot of the books that you see for English teaching, they'll concentrate on English culture, whether it's American, Australian, or whatever. Some people don't care.
Yeah,
I had a student who went to a really good academy, but all the academy was talking about was the Oscars. And she didn't care about the Oscars. She didn't watch English movies. So it was completely boring for her.
hmm
So sometimes as English teachers, we come to a country or we're teaching and we think we're going to teach you everything from the English press.
yeah,
Whereas I use El País or because they have an English version. So I can
yeah,
find Spanish news in English and
exactly.
it allows them, maybe if they don't know the word, they can maybe work it out because they know the story. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Exactly. Yeah,
And I
this
think this is, yeah,
because I
sorry.
totally agree. I totally agree with the books. I really like honestly, they're a great one. I know they give like
Mm-hmm,
a but I really don't like working with the books because like as you said, this is a culture of America or UK, depending like
mm-hmm, exactly.
which book. The best one, like I mean, we speak about like New File or
Mm-hmm,
Cambridge, also, which is
mm-hmm.
amazing and like really, but
Great books.
yeah, this is the culture, and sometimes I don't like the structure of the classes. Sometimes they concentrated a lot on the like reading or something, and I was like, okay, I don't want my class spending so much time on this. I better
Mm-hmm,
give them, okay, you read this paragraph, and then do like maybe at the beginning you start reading me a little bit if I see the problem with the reading, which is rarely, but anyways, you just read a little bit for me and we just keep it, or you maybe made a recording of your reading and send it to me, something like this.
mm-hmm,
Because on class, I mostly wanna them since it's like once per week, I wanna give more. So
mm-hmm,
like either speaking, if I know that, for example, here he cannot practice in English a lot, right? As a speaking, because with whom
mm-hmm,
he's going to speak with another Spanish who doesn't like, so it's also kind of, but
mm-hmm,
actually here maybe he has more, or he or she has more possibilities because it's an international city, you can actually find someone. But like, for example, in Russia, okay, there is a
yeah,
Russian with whom you're going to speak, with no one, only with me. So I give you grammar and we speaking, and other stuff you do at home and we just check. And even sometimes I just don't want to concentrate a lot of on the check and the home task, because why? You sending me,
why?
if you have a
Yeah,
mistake, I will correct, I will tell you, explain you, like if you have a mistake.
mm-hmm.
But checking your homework during the class is just like it's a waste
I'm
of
not
time.
going to do it.
It's
I
just
refuse. I actually refuse. I tell my students when sometimes people approach me and they'll say, I want to prepare for an exam.
mm-hmm.
They've read my reviews and they've went, okay, I want this kind of teacher. And I'll say to them, okay, so you're preparing for an exam. Have you done a test? And they're like, no. And I'll say to them like, look, I'm not here to teach you all of the grammar because the reason I believe this so strongly is because you can get that for free. You know, I'm not Babbel, I'm not Rosetta Stone. You
Mhm.
know, all of these things, learning grammar. If you Google syllabus for C1, grammar exercises, and what to learn as much as you can, try the exam, and then get a private teacher. The private teacher to help you to formulate all this and actually start to use it as a language. Or
Yes,
go to an academy where they're going to brainwash you with this grammar until it's in you. The
exactly.
point of paying for a one-to-one with a teacher to study in depth and correct exercises, what a waste of money. You know, and I say that to them. I'm like,
Really, this is I totally agree with you. I don't want to be paid. I mean, like perfect, but I as of course I do it for money, like
yeah,
definitely. But I don't want to be paid just not first of all feeling the result and doing some like super shitty like boring stuff.
yeah,
And it is the same as like I noticed. I had a student. It was a child. Okay, she was like
mhm,
11 or 12 years old. Oh my god, I think her mom forced her to study. It was French, by the way. It wasn't in English. It was a French. Her mom forced her, and she doesn't really want to. I tried, at the beginning, I tried to, like, okay, let's do like games, reading, but I didn't see the reaction back. I tried.
mhm,
There is no reaction back. There is no progress and nothing. And I lost my enthusiasm. I just really lost because, like, okay, why I'm coming to this? Why I'm doing this? I don't want to like spend
mhm,
time thinking on if the person not excited and the person doesn't do anything. She even didn't do her home task. I asked her, but what's the purpose? I mean, you had to do the home task. It's just as a must because otherwise it's impossible. It's like 1 hour
what?
without home task. I mean, I understand if, for example, the person study with me like 5 days per week. Okay, you can skip the home task because we
Mhm,
mostly will be doing it at the class, right? So we
mhm,
will do like 5 hours per week. It's like at least it's good,
mhm.
I believe. So yeah, but if it's one time you don't do your home task, so what's the
It's
purpose?
impossible. It's impossible to. Geez, I've got many colleagues who try to convince students that just come to class 1 hour a week. That's what you need. You don't need to study. And I just want to hit them around the head. These teachers, I'm just like, look, it's there's research done by the likes of the FBI and CIA on how many hours it takes to actually learn a language to a native level, and it's 5,000 hours.
Mm.
Okay, now 5,000 times €20 an hour. That's going to cost
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? So it's like giving them things to do, outside of the classroom. So I think as a teacher, sometimes you become not just a teacher but a coach. You're starting to say, all right, okay, this is what you've got to do because it's not me that's teaching you the language, it's you that's learning it.
Exactly.
And that's the mentality I always try and get my students into. I don't know. I don't know what you need to know. You have to tell me so I can help you.
Exactly.
I don't know where your gaps are until you expose them. So we need to start looking at that. And I think that because of this, I don't use books. I find that reading a text for a student, especially at a high level, um, it's kind of useless because if they read and then they pronounce it wrong and they learn to pronounce it wrong when I'm not there to correct them,
Hmm.
then that error becomes fixed.
Yeah.
So I discovered and started using TED Talks because TED Talks are
Oh,
amazing.
I love them. Oh my
So good.
God. And they have also,
Yeah.
what I love about them, besides the TED Talks, because like it's a bunch of different subject, whatever you want to
Mm-hmm.
find.
Anything you want to study.
Guys, yeah, different like timing, like 5 minutes, for example, to watch in the class, or like 3 minutes to watch in the class, 40 minutes for, and also in the internet there are like TED Talks plans even, so you can even like prepare class or take something from this like a verb or a word, sorry, vocabulary or something. So I love them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really like they give a lot of very useful information besides just like
Phenomenal.
English. You just learn also some like I don't know, interesting stuff like facial recognition, or I don't know, racism, or like health,
Anything.
everything, and this is what I hate about
I don't think there's a subject that isn't covered in TED Talks. I'm yet to discover a student who has an interest that I haven't been able to find at least 5 or 10 TED Talks on. And the beauty of TED Talks is that they have the transcript button. So if I give a student a TED Talk, I give them the link from the transcript. So they follow the transcript and it highlights in blue while you're listening. So they have the reading and the audio at the same time, and they can pause it, if they struggle to understand a word, with a word reference, they can learn new vocabulary. So when they come to class with me, I've normally given them the video, given them the transcript, and I've highlighted particular words that I think are good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to prepare questions that are going to force them to use that vocabulary. And then we just talk about the TED Talk, whatever it was about.
Exactly. Yeah, this is actually what I do. The only thing I don't do, it's like I never send them the transcript as well. Now I was thinking maybe it's very wise, because before I prefer them, to listen and try to understand what I'm seeing, But
Sure,
now,
sure.
if you think, it's also maybe a very good way.
It's just part of the website. Like on the actual the TED Talk website, they have you just click on the transcript and it follows the audio. And you can, as I said, you can challenge the student. If the student has really good listening skills, and you just tell them, look, just listen to it, and I'll give them questions on it. I think we did one recently, and then it's able to then not just ask them questions about the TED Talk, but go, what if this happened to you? What would you do in this circumstance?
Exactly, same.
And then because I find that as teachers, we sometimes ask a lot of yes/no answer questions. We should be given more conditionals.
Exactly.
So if what would you do in this situation?
Yeah. It's also the different type of the opinion, not only to what is of course I started with, okay, what was the talk about, right? What is the general idea? I don't usually ask a lot of details about this talk, because I'm more interested about, okay, we'll listen about I don't know, facial recognition, what's the problem and everything. He told me what's the speaker taught, right? And then okay, what do you think about this? What is your idea? What do you think if you live in this? All this the same. So with the I love the TED Talks and this way of work.
Brilliant. I did a class just on just Monday just past, and the student wanted to. I found a TED Talk on yoga, but what I was really pushing was to make sure they understood the difference between said and tell, or to say and to tell.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me what she said. What did she tell you? To make sure that she could use these verbs, past, current, the gerund form. So even though we were practicing grammar, but the student didn't even know that I was focusing my entire class on the grammar of these two words. And I think that's when you talk about teaching grammar, you got to sugarcoat it like Mary Poppins, We're doing grammar, but you won't notice.
Art of teaching, you show the art of teaching, implementing, not even noticing.
You have to, because when you tell a student we're going to do a grammar class, you see them going,
yeah. Oh my God, okay, boring stuff.
You hit the panic button.
Yeah, it's true. By the way, speaking since we come to this TED Talk and everything, I saw once at your Instagram where you put the question about when this Black Lives Matter started, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you said what is as a teacher, as an educator, because I think this is very important, especially if we especially we have children, right? Because with the adults, we will discuss both approaches. But what do you think our role as educators in this matter? Because I think it's very important, not about only this racism stuff, about the gay marriages, about even pandemic, about the every events which is happening now, war, I don't know, economical crisis and everything. So how do you play with these, or what do you think our importance, or what's your reflection about this?
Right, so this is tough as a teacher, I think. I mean, the Black Lives Matter thing has been, it's something that's inspired me in the last 2 weeks of teaching, but I've not actually approached the subject directly because I've actually been looking at it in what I think is much more of a Spanish-focused area. I think that particularly here in Barcelona, there's a certain view of Moroccan people and the Gypsy community.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of looking at it, essentially to do with Black Lives Matter, I've been looking at the point of xenophobia in general.
Mm-hmm.
I think when taking all this into account as a teacher, it's something I hated about being a teacher was the fact that I'm an authority figure,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really like authority very much. So the whole idea of being a teacher was like, So
Mm-hmm.
when I talk, anything I say to a student, there's a chance they might believe that as fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be careful. Every piece of
Yeah.
text I put in front of a student, I must check the origin. I must make sure that I'm not shaping their opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not my job. But
Yeah.
what my job is to be devil's advocate. So if I'm in a class and the student has a strong opinion on something, I'm probably going to disagree with them. And I'm going to use that to help them develop their skills to
Exactly.
negotiate into battle.
Exactly.
But I've only got one kid that I teach, a 14-year-old boy, and we talked a little bit about this week. But I didn't want to bore him because I think his other teachers had been doing
Yeah.
it all week at school. But all the adults have been talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically in Barcelona, where I live, what's it like with the different, we're Guiris, right? We're the immigrants here, so it's like, it's easy for us. The whole idea of white privilege, that's the big topic of conversation. Well, look how easy it is for you and I to move here, get a job, and
Yeah.
make a living. Would it be that easy if either of us were from Africa?
Exactly. It wasn't.
So
This is like,
these
yeah.
have been the things.
Exactly. This is, I totally agree with you. I also spoke with I don't have children a lot, but actually I have one child. He's also French, by the way, and
Mm-hmm.
he's 16, I think. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
16, yeah. But he's super smart, you know. We're like,
Okay.
sometimes he was speaking and I was like, oh my God, you are smarter than me. Like, really, I have sometimes these moments. But we discussed with him this subject and like, but I think it's really important, you know, to cover this because
Mm-hmm.
the child, it's also important, even you not like, as you said, not to like force him to believe that this is not right or good, but at least to show that there is like, okay, there is a path that we all like equal. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what color you are, to create this friendliness and kindness towards any person, because
Mm-hmm.
good and bad can be among anyone, white, black, Asian,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the most important thing to show the child that there is like a good person and the bad person. You don't need to trust the bad person. For example, the bad person who killed the other person, it's not good action. He did nothing wrong, right? But yeah, this is with the children. The children that you need to be like really very cautious, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to like also ruin their psychic. Speaking like, you don't want to get them bored as well, because it's like, as you said, they're more about like maybe games or like, I don't know, some stuff, childhood. Or
It's even like it's even that kind of I've made plenty of mistakes as a human being. I've said plenty of things that I shouldn't have said, not
mm-hmm.
regarding prejudice, but just I make errors. I'm human,
Yes.
and I've learned to be the person I am through my own experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like getting told things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like someone telling me this is how it has to be, this is that.
Exactly.
So I think when you're working with young people,
Mm-hmm.
it's just about challenging their belief system, not telling them it's right or wrong. If I had a class with I remember once I was teaching a student who was clearly a Vox voter, and it was he was talking about, he was actually in his class, he was talking about how he was attacked in a supermarket by some people and the police were involved. And, deep down, I wanted to tell him exactly what I think of him, but I'm a teacher. So I just had to find, that challenging aspect. And so it's not about, you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
With a kid, just whatever they say is, even if you like what they say, maybe challenge them by saying something that they won't like, So, should people be treated equally? But why?
So make them to think, you know. like
Maybe
because
we're better than them, you know.
yeah,
And then you see the kid go, no, 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 we're not. And you're like, good, okay. You
no,
just
it's
just making these questions that are kind of like, rather than going, this
yeah,
is the Bible, this is bad, you know. You know what I mean?
the
And it's
good
fun.
person
And
is
kids,
a bad.
totally.
No, yeah,
And
yeah, this
kids,
is totally true. Yeah, I totally agree because this is the thing, you know, you come to realization what is good or wrong if you reflect something in your mind. This is true. Like nobody like
absolutely.
tell you like this is bad. I wouldn't like okay, why I wouldn't try it when I wouldn't see it, I wouldn't believe it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
the kids have got to own it. They've got to own it. It's their learning, and yeah, I totally agree with you. You can't tell them what's right and wrong. You can help them get there.
yes. But with the adults it's different. With adults, as you said, you just like different opinion, and if you like absolutely contradict with this, you like make a as a class, you know, how for example on the negotiation to contradict each other, how to prove yourself, right? You know, your point of view
Yeah.
and everything. But
Well,
it's
passion helps learning, right? So,
mhm.
and I think that when someone's passionate, they actually can do more than they think they can do.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
I want to tell
They
what
get,
it's
they get,
about. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I want to say something, and they make it work. They maybe make mistakes, but they make it work. I remember teaching a girl, it was my friend's sister, so
uh-huh.
we had good trust, and one day in class, she just didn't seem interested. I think she was tired. Maybe she had a little resaca, a little hangover.
Uh-huh.
So I just started making some really sexist comments. You know, I was like, English class, should you not just be learning how to cook? You know, and she was like, whoa, 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 no, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, there we go. Sometimes you have to poke the bear in class. You know, you've got to try and get your students to have a bit of fire, and then
Yeah.
they talk. But you need to have that trust. But I could say these things to her.
Oh my God, I guess your classes are very amazing. Like I can't imagine being in your classes, you know. You were just
Oh,
like,
fun.
yeah, I feel it, you know. I would love to have a teacher like this. Especially like,
I
you know,
was lucky.
I mean with the tattoos, like with the beer and you and you like and
Well,
you
it works for you. What was your kind of like inspiration to be a teacher when you first started? Did you have a teacher that you had as a role model?
I don't think so. I had like a teacher as a role model, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it was at university. I studied when I still was at university, and it was like I worked as a waitress. Like I needed to, okay, first of all, I needed like to get money, you know, because I needed
Mm-hmm.
to support myself. And I started as a waitress when I worked in Zara, you know, as a consultant. And like, oh my God, my work is so stupid. I don't bring any value. I was just standing as an accessory in the shop or in the restaurant and like serving the people. I I think in my mind, I hate serving people too much. I just like
No.
I just like I can't stand it, you know. I just like I feel someone is like pushing me from the, and I know that he's like a upper, you know, he's superior than me, and I cannot say nothing. And inside me, oh my God, it's just like it's a fire. I just like explode emotionally. And then I was like, okay, I think I would like teaching because yeah, I still serving people, right? It's still
Mm-hmm.
services,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the services which first of all I bring value, which is most important because for me personally I really want to bring value to this work. I don't want to make a work just as a matter of money. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
feel useful, you know. I just
Mm-hmm.
really want to feel useful. I don't want to say that being a waitress is a useless job. Of course it brings some value because otherwise who will serve us in the restaurants, right? But like it's for me personally is my character. I don't feel it. And when I start teaching and when I started seeing the results of my students, and I was like, wow, you know, I so good, like really, I really felt good. And from this moment, uh, I like, I started like to pursue this career. I worked as translator. Meanwhile, you know, I also worked in the office there was a period in my life where I had to work in as a personal assistant. You know, it's just it was a time but I hate this.
Intense, right?
But I always work as a teacher, you know, like not full time, but I always have like classes maybe after or maybe on weekends or something like this.
Right,
So I
right,
always did it. And I really enjoyed it. For me, it's just like a relaxation. Like really, I have a lot
right,
of
right.
like most of the time. Of course, there are some difficult students with whom sometimes it's difficult, or maybe you don't have a connection, because it's also sometimes it happens. You meet the student and you don't have a connection, it just doesn't work, and you kind of after several
Doesn't work.
classes you just go. But it's not. It doesn't mean that he bad or she's bad or I am bad. We just don't
Mhm.
match. Our my approach maybe doesn't match her,
Yep,
or her
been
way.
there.
Yeah. So like I guess every teacher has this. It's just like it's normal.
You shouldn't be all the same, right? We shouldn't all
Exactly.
teach the same way because everyone learns differently.
Ex-
I used to be. I think when I first started, I tried to make everyone happy, but eventually it was driving me crazy as a teacher. Like, who am I for the
Mhm.
next hour? But I think that's why. Well, I do a free hour normally when I start with a new student, and I always tell them, look, I'm not teaching you. We're going to do an hour where I want to work out whether we're going to enjoy this or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about some things. I'll, ask them some questions just to see if you have that click. Because if you have that kind of, I think it was one of the things you were talking about earlier about going into people's offices and how you want to be fun and friendly. When you teach adults, normally they've been working all day. They've just finished an 8-hour shift,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to be fun.
Yes.
And you want someone to be like, I'm not just meeting my teacher, I'm away to meet my friend. You need to kind of make that little connection so that it becomes an enjoyable hour
Yeah.
and they look forward to it. I think that your background, probably like I'm the same, I worked in hospitality. This like ability to connect with strangers really helps.
Yeah, really. Like this is what I really love about also teaching, because it helps to find a connection with their like strangers. Because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people, I'm afraid, to speaking with the strangers, and I don't find this difficult for me. And thanks to my profession, because like I all the time meeting with new people, like communicating with them, trying to find what they like, and everything. And this is like also grateful. That's why I also like this job, not only because I get some value or I bring some value, but I got a lot from them as well.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned so much from them, and this is amazing. So it's just like as we've talked at the beginning, remember, we learned with them and they paid us. So it's just kind of, yeah, I took Spanish or something like this.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So like really. And so yeah, I have some question in my mind what I wanted to ask you, and
Sure.
it's like popped out of my head. I was just like, oh my God, I wanted, because you're speaking, I was like, oh, I have a question what I want to ask, and I forgot, oh my God, but I hope I will remember this eventually, maybe after we finish. I was like, okay, actually, I wanted to ask you this question, but it doesn't matter to me.
Well, you were thinking about, we were thinking earlier about, I was reading through some of the points for today, and like advice for like new teachers when they're coming here,
Mm-hmm.
and what platforms that we can use to get out there and get in touch with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is something that when we when you start your teaching, you just don't know when it starts. You don't know, should you do private, should you work in a school, and I started off teaching privately, but I kind of wish I'd worked in a school for a bit of time first.
But you never
I think
work in
no,
school.
I never worked in schools. I did my training in a school, but that was only a month.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish I'd maybe done it for a little while. Um, I think any new teacher when they're starting off should just do it, just for maybe even just a year, because I think it helps to give you that basis in your grammar. And I'm talking about natives because I can only talk for myself.
Yeah, I know.
I think as a native teacher, you need to just you need to push yourself, force yourself to have to teach grammar. Otherwise, you're never going to do it.
Exactly.
You'll just do conversational classes.
Mhm.
And I've had friends of mine who say, "Oh, I just do conversational classes. We don't concentrate on grammar." And I'm like, I'm 25 euros an hour. I'll talk to someone for an hour if they buy me a beer. You don't have to pay me 25 euros an hour. you know, so it's like it seems a bit expensive. And I think to be able to offer value, like what you were talking about,
Yeah.
I think you need to learn how to do the things we've been talking about today. how to like sugarcoat grammar and how to keep some essence of structure and homework, and
Exactly.
at the same time be fun and flowing.
Yeah, nobody prevents you from this, right? Nobody
No.
prevents you to teach grammar, but fun. You
Yeah.
can you make it don't need necessarily, you don't need to make exercises. For example, if you think it's boring, you can practice like present simple, like speaking, like, okay, tell me what you usually do when you travel to like if east of or south of Spain, like, something like this.
Yep.
So
Yep.
manage what the person wants to. But yeah, I think when I start, I had personal classes
Mhm.
first, and then in a matter of time, I started to work at school.
Right. Good.
And then I did both, I still worked at school, at the same studied at university. Oh my God, it was a hell yeah, because I was
Wow.
like, it was a final year. So I wrote my diploma. I was writing my diploma. Oh my God, this was like crazy. I left house around 7 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock. I was at university. After 3, I started to work and I returned home at 12. And at 12, I did my homework because I needed to do my home task for the university. And I worked 6 days per week. And Sunday was kind of free. And on Sunday, it wasn't like actually free because I either writing my diploma or I'm doing my home tasks, for the whole week prior.
Wow.
It was like, I
Wow.
don't know how I survived, but it was like, I managed to do this. So yeah, but at school, I worked as well, uh, as well as in groups, and we
Mhm.
had the private classes as well, like individual classes face to face. But
Mhm.
we had books, and they kind of asked me to follow these books, but
Mhm.
I tried to deviate sometimes from there. I was kind of, we had it, we do something with the book, but I brought a lot of my material, put something mine, because like, I hate books, like really. I hate structure so much, like I couldn't stand it. But yeah, it was a nice experience. I really like it. I liked it from the experience of being in a group. I like working in a group as well, because here you also, well, you can relax as well a little bit, because you can give the
Mhm.
students like, okay, this is a dialect time, so discuss something,
Mhm.
and they spoke or something, or do like this, explain grammar to someone as well. So this is it. And I like this competition sometimes, you see like the students trying to be better and better, and so they push themselves. And this is why I
Mhm.
like groups. But in groups, what I told you, or I didn't like so much, is because of the difference. It's very difficult to keep up. It's bad for the others who is low or high, whatever.
I totally agree. I think that books, although we're both in agreement that I don't like using them. You know,
Mhm.
I my teaching style was inspired by starting with books. You know, and I think that any teacher who starts is that this the beauty of a book is the syllabus, the actual order in which you can teach things. You
Yeah.
know, and it gives you a nice framework to start with and confidence, and you can kind of match your exercises with it. I think, as a teacher, it all depends on the profession of your student, what they want. Like I've got students who want perfection.
Yeah.
And,
Same.
they're like, I want to be perfect. I want this.
Exactly. Hmm.
They want me to help them with their pronunciation and so on and so forth. And I've got students who are like, I just want to be able to communicate. And I'm like, cool. And the margin of error for what because you don't, if someone just wants to communicate, I don't correct them a lot. I'm going to be like,
Yeah.
that'll do,
I do
that'll do.
the same. Yeah, sometimes if it's like I might can, but I don't like it. You know what I don't like? Imagine you are speaking, 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 and someone constantly interrupts you. You as well
Awful.
kind of lose the it's like kind of security in what you're talking, right? Confidence in what you're talking.
Mhm.
You kind of, okay,
Mhm.
now I need to think. So I'm correcting for sure, but I'm trying not to do it very often. When if it's like super like a big mistake with the not right usage of the word, because it's better. But if it's grammatically, I mean, like not past tense or like whatever, or whatever,
Mhm.
kind of try to avoid. And maybe next class I will bring like an exercise, or we train past tenses or something like this. But
Mhm.
interrupting
Mhm.
all the time, I think it's a little bit, I wouldn't love me if I was interrupted all the time, it's like constantly. It was like, okay, can I speak? Please.
Exactly. Exactly. You want to say something. I think that I I always just think of myself. You know, when someone asks me something and I'm trying to remember it, this is in my language, okay? And then they interrupt me. I can't. I need to finish my thought process.
Exactly. Yes.
You know,
Same.
so it's the same for the student, and that's delayed error correction, right? So you can, as you were saying, you know, you can just take a note in your book of a mistake they've made.
Yes.
At the end of the class, be like, okay, today was good. We had problems with this and this. So next week, we're going to look at this. Here's a link to maybe you can do a little refresher on this.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, this is what I like. I also usually write down and maybe give, like, if it's like super huge,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But yeah,
Sometimes they correct it themselves, you know?
exactly.
Sometimes they make a mistake and you go, okay, I'm going to wait. And then they
And it's just
fix
like,
it.
oh, no, 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 no. Let's
You're like,
correct.
okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's better.
Yeah, by the way, I remember the question what I wanted to ask. Look, when I studied university, I saw a lot of girls, okay, at the language university. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about the, like, most of the teachers? How do you think that most of the language teachers are girls than the guys? Or not? How do you think? Or maybe it's changed now? Because like when I
No,
studied university, like in my course, there are only 4 or 3 guys, and the
really?
whole university was full of like girls, you know, like really, even in the dormitory when we lived, we have like we have 5 floor building, I guess 5 or 6, I don't remember exactly, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter.
Mm-hmm.
Only one floor was for guys, others was girls.
Wow. Wish I went to that university.
You know, the good thing was that opposite of our university there is a technical university and there is only guys, so actually
Okay, okay. Okay, she had the mix. She had the mix. I don't know. I don't think that. I don't think so. Maybe maybe if you look at like teaching in general in the United Kingdom, then maybe. I mean, I don't. I'm not a teacher in the United Kingdom, but maybe there'd be more ladies doing that. But I'm trying to think. Of, my experience is quite down the middle.
like
It's quite 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Maybe slightly more ladies, but certainly my experience has been mostly 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I think that what I see more of it, I see more British teachers than I see American teachers. They seem to come to Europe. I presume that's a lot to do with the visa,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But that's what that then leads to a certain problem, which I've seen. Now I've got no ego when I teach, and I don't care to be British. I'm Scottish first, so the whole idea of the British English is not really important to me. But it has rules that are completely different from the American English.
Yeah, I know.
So you know what I mean. So, but British English teachers will teach the British rules, and they'll sometimes correct when someone uses American rules and tell them, no, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And that annoys me because the fact of the matter is that American English is the most spoken English in the world.
Exactly. Like, let's be honest, right?
To be honest, right?
Everything is like American. But yeah, I at university I studied British English, but I
Mm-hmm.
think now I'm mostly in sound and use the words from the American one. Why?
Yep.
Because I watched a lot of American movies. First, start with this. I met with a lot of American people, and well, most of the people speak American, so
Yep.
it's just like I don't think it's a very important, you know, because sometimes students write like I want a British or an American, or they ask me like, you know, what kind of accent you have, and I was like, well, does it really matter? Like, really? Because like, and I really think that British, yeah, it's more classical and it's super like, you know, like I don't feel actually in your accent, like I don't feel it. But I remember when I used to listen American so much, and when I met a British guy and he started speaking to me, and I was like, oh my God, it's so weird, you know, I'm just listening and I just like I don't understand. But the worst thing was when I met Australians. That took me a while, you know. I was sitting with them. It was like during the World FIFA World Cup as well. So I was like sitting there with them in the restaurant, and they're speaking. I was like, I'm sorry, can you repeat, please? And then, like, after a couple of hours, I kind of get used to this accent. But at the beginning, I was like, oh my God, like, really?
It depends. They've got there's certain parts. Well, the kind of generic Australian accent is really cool. I mean, I really
Uh-huh.
like it. But there are certain parts where it's quite high. Yeah, they kind of go up high, and for me it's quite funny. But yeah, with the American, it's the. I remember when I first. I mean, I didn't know there was a difference, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
I just thought they were making mistakes. So
Uh-huh.
the first and it's to do with the plural and some of the group nouns.
Mhm.
So like, what was it when I came across? One of my students was saying, "Oh, the team or the staff is doing well," and that's wrong to me because in English I would use are. I would use a plural.
Mhm.
And when I first started to come across these things, so for my first year as an English teacher, I was actually correcting. I was actually telling people they were making a mistake when it was fine.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
so involved with my version of English, and this is the kind of cool thing about the English language is that there are several versions of it. There's a European. They kind of believe there's a European grammar structure of English developing, and
Uh-huh.
post Brexit, it's going to get stronger.
Oh, God.
So yeah, it's like some things that are maybe not pluralized are going to become pluralized.
Okay.
I'm trying to think like informations. I'm looking for the informations regarding this. Maybe
Wow,
just
really?
information.
Wow,
Yeah,
it's
there's
so
lots of things.
weird. It's so weird.
Yeah,
For me,
it's,
it's so weird.
it's so weird. But when English is spoken as the second language or the business language in Europe, then
Yeah.
they have an entitlement, a right to create their own version because we have American English with its own rules. We have Australian English with its own rules. I mean, I could make you laugh. There's rules for Scotland, England, and Wales. We have in Ireland. We have our own little pronunciations, our own little ways of
Well, I
doing
heard,
things.
yeah. Sometimes I think I met someone from Ireland. I don't or
Uh-huh.
from Scotland. I don't remember. And he told me like if I met with someone from other part of the Scotland or Ireland, I don't remember which country. Like really, I'm so sorry. But
Mm-hmm.
he said like we probably wouldn't understand each other. And I was
It's
like,
tough.
wow, really? Wow,
Yeah.
it's so like funny.
Yeah. No, we've I'm in a group with different with a guy from Liverpool, and his accent's really strong. When he's drunk, I really struggle to understand him. It's really funny. But like even like the different, you know how in Spanish, I don't know if it's Russian's the same, but you have the third person, so the second person plural, like use.
Ah,
I think it's with vosotros, I think it is, and yeah, vosotros in Spanish.
uh-huh.
So in English you don't have this, you just have you,
Ah,
right?
you for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But in Northern England, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, we'll go use for
With S
plural.
at the end.
Yeah, and it's not
Wow.
grammatically correct, but we use it. It's part of our language.
Differentiate a little bit, kind of, right?
Yeah, and this happens everywhere. So when I'm now that I'm living in Europe and I'm teaching English, I'm a little less specific about details because if this is how one of the things I notice is that someone who's a lot of people who are speaking English, they're
Mhm.
not speaking English with a native. They're speaking English with another non-native English speaker. Do you get what I mean? So like
Yeah,
for example, you talking to a French person in English.
yeah, yeah.
So you guys are both like using your own version of English. And it develops its own kind of culture. So this is like the thing, you know what
Russian
I mean?
French.
Yeah. So we have to like, as English teachers, I think we have to be a little less tight about how specific we are with things. There are some rules that are written in stone, but there's other things that are not that important.
Yeah, because language is changing. This is the truth.
Yeah.
Matter of time, always changes. It adapting something, and then something is appeared. This is true. Like I totally agree with you here because, like, yeah, you give a base, but you shouldn't be like, okay, like, no, never, like just like this.
Exactly.
Like no, no any other ways to say it. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
true. It's true.
It's like we were talking about the accents earlier. I really find the Spanish accent when speaking English. I think it's really sexy. I think it's really cool. You know, I always tell my Spanish male friends, I'm like, you
Uh-huh.
go to Scotland, oh, the girls are going to love you when you start speaking English. Your accent's so sexy. And it's the same for us guys. And it's the way they pronunciate. So do I want to correct that? No.
No, no, no. I love it. Right? I enjoy
Literally, I
it.
love it. I understand you. So it's like teaching them other ways to make sure they can differentiate while keeping their accent. Because there's this like real kind of pijo, this real classism of
Mm-hmm.
how English should be spoken. And the whole higher class version of English is the worst pronounced.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Like a proper English ah,
Uh-huh.
the letter ah.
Uh-huh.
In posh, they don't pronounce it. It's ah. So
Oh.
I'm going to the doctor.
Oh, wow.
Ah. Okay, so this whole Mary Poppins high level English is the worst pronounced English.
Wow, it's so
You know?
weird. Oh my God, it's so
You see?
unusual to listen to.
As a Scotsman, when I first started becoming a teacher, they said you have to teach students the soft R. And I was like, hmm. So I was reading these two different words and asking the students to tell the difference. And
Yeah.
they couldn't. And I couldn't either, because I didn't know what I was looking for until I realized that South English accent and the Northern English and Scots and Irish accent are pronounced differently. So we have really strong R's, like the Spanish roller R's, whereas the
And so
soft
you like
R,
pronounce like wow.
Scottish and Irish accent. Okay, we have our accents, which make us very difficult to understand. But when we speak clearly, we have such strong consonants and we roll all R's. So it's very easy to understand us when we speak properly. The problem is Scottish people go when they're talking, and it makes it really hard. But when we speak properly, it's one of the easiest languages to understand, or the easiest versions of English.
Yeah.
I've had many students have told me a well-spoken Irish accent is the easiest to understand, and that surprised me. But they love it. My girlfriend, her teacher was Irish, you know, so he speaks like up and down with the phonetics, and for her it was dead easy to understand. And I think that really helps them.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
everyone thinks posh, Mary Poppins. I have to talk like this. How now, brown cow?
It's so, but because it's weird, you know, if you try to like uh mm, put your pronunciation, which is like for some level, you know, it's you sound weird. You should sound like as you are, you know. Of course, try
Absolutely.
to maybe pronounce like some words for sure correctly, not like incorrectly, absolutely. But you know, when you feel more natural when you speak and
Mm-hmm.
you have this attraction and connection with the other person. If you will be like, as you like, when you started to speak with Ray, I was like, okay, no, it's not you. I don't know you. Who am I speaking? I just like, I don't understand you.
What is this weirdness?
Yeah, you look so
And
fake.
because we all do it, right? We do it like I found myself when I first started learning Spanish. I had this Spanish accent, you know, like I don't know if you do it when you speak Spanish. You try to sound a little Spanish with it. You know,
No,
you
I
go to the
don't.
left.
I just like the
What?
only thing when I'm concentrated, I was like, okay, I need to speak. I need to remember the words, you know.
Well, when I first started speaking Spanish, I had this really strong Malagueñan kind of accent that I thought was how it was supposed to be. And then I met a friend of mine who spoke Spanish fluently, but with his accent.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I want to talk like that. I still want to sound like me, you know, because it's cooler,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Okay. We spoke like for 2 hours, I think.
I know. Hey, that's typical me. Don't worry.
No, it was amazing. Like I really, really enjoy it. I hope you too as well, and you
No,
liked.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure.